Anyway, hello there.
Hello.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Tim. Tim is the most known guitar effect maker from Britain in the world. Can I say something like that about you?
You could try.
Yeah, you are the most recognizable.
They're in lots of shops.
Yeah.
And, shops in Germany, Japan, America.
I think you are the most popular, like guitar effects maker all over the world, based in England here. What made you start in making the effects? Where did it come from?
It came from playing in bands and just am I losing it? Losing it.
There you go.
Yeah, just playing in bands, experimenting, rewiring guitars, and then just building kits. And then when I stopped playing in bands so much, I just got into the effects business. And initially I was just building it as a hobby, and then I started selling them, and then eventually I just started building them in bigger and bigger batches until I've got too many different pedals now. I have a range of like 25, 30 pedals.
You mean the models you're making?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And how long you making it actually, like a business? How long the business lasts?
2011 is when I started as a business. Yeah,
okay.
But I started building them kind of seriously in about 2009. And then, as they sold, I quit my job in 2012, and then I've been doing this full time ever since. Yeah,
that's a good achievement, actually. We were talking before about how guitar business is hard. To make you making money, actually. So.
Well, I think the margins in the pedal business are greater than if I were building guitars or amplifiers, and I think it's easier to get into the market because there isn't this big commitment from shops. They don't have to buy guitars that cost thousands of pounds, and also people are more willing to try pedals because they are only in £100 to £150 sort of range. And I hand build everything in the UK, but I don't want to charge 250 quid for a fuzz pedal because I know how much these things cost to build, and I don't want to rip people off.
Fair enough. Because you got a very special vibe with your effects, especially recently. Like I think a year ago we spoken for the first time, and then it's growing in your business. You got a love for Eastern European sounds, especially Eastern German sounds. Well, where's that coming from?
It's just anything to keep, because I've been sort of playing guitar and in the guitar business for such a long time that it has to be something to keep it interesting for me. I used to collect guitars. I used to collect sort of Fender offsets and Swedish Hagstrom guitars and things. Even though my hands are too big to play Hagstroms, they have the skinny narrow necks. So I got into kind of Musimer guitars through like Sonic Youth. So I got a Musimer Eterna, and then
Sonic Youth was playing.
Kim Gordon famously played the Musimer Eterna. So I bought an Eterna, and it's a cool guitar, but I much prefer the Elgita with a simpler wiring with the two pickups, and I think they sound better. So I got a couple of those, and from that, it's just something that no one else has kind of investigated. That kind of that Eastern Bloc aesthetic, and some of the circuits like the Vizzero is a very distinctive, harsh distortion. It's just something to do.
And then when you mentioned Sonic Youth, you're not really making pedals for the market, which is like, let's say, wider metal music, all those hardcore music. You stayed with this grungy, rocky. Is there still people buying it and playing that kind of music?
I think
it's not grunge dead.
No, it's not. It's it's sort of post-punk, isn't it? And grunge is essentially punk punk music.
Okay.
So that garagey sound, that sort of mud honey, that fuzzier side of what would later become grunge. I think there's still people buying that, and there's still people that play that sort of music. And offset guitars that exemplify that sort of music are so popular. I mean, there's a Jazzmaster in every single price bracket now, and loads of people doing Jazzmaster copies, and no one would have, back in the day, these were not popular guitars.
They were not popular at all.
But now they're like the hipster guitar. So who knows? So lots of fuzzes. And
do you have any bands, like let's say known in the world, playing your effects? Like do you have any endorsers?
I don't do that really.
You don't do that,
and I don't really make a thing on the website about which bands use my pedals. But there's bands like, because it's a bit guitar maggy, and it's like that guitar magazine culture, and I don't think that's very cool. And I also think that I always think that if so and so endorses a pedal, and like there's going to be just as many people thinking that this guy is, I don't want to be like this guy, because
so it's like opposite marketing you're thinking about.
Yeah, like I remember there was the guy from Cooler Shaker. Do you remember them?
Yeah, I remember.
I was thinking, I'm not going to buy that guitar because it's endorsed by the guy from Cooler Shaker.
Like Squire Venus or something.
It was a Squire Venus. I loved the Squire Venus, but I thought the link with Cooler Shaker was quite bad.
That's a very interesting point, actually.
I don't know.
It's totally reverse to what's the word of the guitar is.
There's a few famous-ish people that use Fredric Effects. There's Foles and Kurt Weill and the 1979 that band. Yeah. Anyway, the Darkness did it as well.
Really?
And the Jesus and Mary Chain got a few of those. So there's a few. There's more, but I can't think of them now. Future of the Left do as well. Yeah.
Do you have any contact with, despite you don't have any like endorsements, do you have any contact with them? Do they tweak the effects with you? Do they have any influence on what you're doing?
No, not really, but I did a couple of Kickstarter things where bands would basically order a batch of 50 pedals for the Darkness, and they pre-sold that through their Kickstarter thing to like their fans, and Future of the Left did the same thing, which was kind of neat, just a couple of projects. But no, I don't. Yeah, and I don't really sort of. Occasionally, bands will get in touch and say, "Can you make so and so pedal?" As a kind of batch for the band, and I'm like, maybe, but it's just because the kind of quantities I'm dealing in, it doesn't really make much sense for me to custom build 5-10 pedals, because that's a lot because I have to design circuits and get the enclosures made and get the printing done. So it really is not cost effective unless I'm making 50 or 100 pedals.
Is it all made by you only? You got no helpers?
No. Sometimes I do. I have. There's companies that do the enclosure fabrication and the CNC punching and all that shit, and the powder coating and the screen printing. So they do that, and I design the circuit boards and get those made in China, and then I do most of the population stuffing the circuit boards and putting them into pedals in the assembly. Occasionally, when there's pedals that are particularly popular, I'll outsource the circuit board work. So I'll send them to a company in Bristol, and they'll do the circuit population and the soldering and stuff, and then all I have to do is slot the things into the boxes.
Who's making the design of the pedals? Because they're quite unique.
Oh yeah.
Who's making all those pictures on them?
My partner Stacey, she does the illustration. She does the illustration on the Foxrite, and she does the cool Sonic Youth style T-shirt, and what else is good? The Foxrite, Demon Fuzz, and the Accomplished Badger, the badger on that, and the little zombie guy and the zombie clone. So she does the illustration side of things, and I'll do the sort of the more Eastern Bloc aesthetic kind of stuff. And
then coming back to this, you got two effects which are based on original designs from Eastern Germany. One is original Fass, which was made only one model was made there, and the other one is the newest thing you just made.
the Regent preamp.
Roland 150. Yeah.
The Regent, yeah.
The nightmare of my childhood.
I had that from Andy Ebsen, who runs Effect Boutique in Germany. He said, "Oh, I had a Regent as my first amp. It was a complete nightmare."
Exactly.
And he said, but I'll take a pedal anyway.
So that's like what, copy inspired by, or is it like is it like?
Oh, that's a question. Right, the original Verzera was in a little plastic box, and it had 5-pin DIN plugs. Also, it had the two controls, the lower controls, as trim pots you had to adjust with a screwdriver, which is a right pain. So I've externalized everything. I've also put a little bank on the circuit board. There's a bank of dip switches, so you can turn on extra noise reduction, which is you might want to be noisy, or you might want to be less noisy. And it has a boost circuit, and there's an extra resistor that I didn't like in the original circuit, so you can turn that off. Aside from that, the signal path is exactly the same as the original pedal, the original effect, and it's made using the original East German transistors, which I managed to source.
Okay, and then another one, where is it? Down there. Here you even, that's the original design of Regent 150 with the colors of the knobs.
Those are very expensive knobs. They are the trouble I had sourcing those. I had to get them from America. But yeah, it's I tried to get the aesthetic the same as the original amplifier.
It does look exactly the same. I would say even the shade of the blue is very similar. You know.
Well, that's what I was going for. And so all that is the preamp section. The original amplifier has a stereo preamp, so it has 2 channels, so you could have another band member playing another thing into the amp at the same time as you, if you want to be frugal.
Yeah, there was something like mixer PA, something like. It wasn't really guitar amplifier.
They did that. Well, this amp, and because it originally the amp has a 5-pin DIN, so you could have a high input and a low input, so you could have like a microphone and a guitar into the same amp at the same time if you wanted.
So what is it, like a simple equalizer with? We can use it like an equalizer with booster?
It's an EQ, you can use it as a boost, and it's a preamp, and it adds a nice bit of compression, and I think it sounds really good. It's the power amp of that amplifier that isn't amazing. It's shit. But it kind of, the power amp, because it runs on only 30 volts, it distorts at quite low volume. So what I've done with mine, I've got one of these amps at home, I've just modified it, so you hit it with a lower input and it never pushes it to distortion. So the power amp sounds fine and the preamp sounds nice.
Very, very interesting stuff. I still don't understand the love of it. I was born in a communism, maybe late communism, but still. And for us, when we were kids, and all the bigger companies from Korea, from Japan, from America, they came to Poland
with much better products.
With the proper products. You just plug and play. We were like, get rid of all this shit, but it's coming back now. And
but people have, the perfect guitar or the perfect amplifier isn't necessarily the most interesting guitar or the most interesting. I mean, look at PRS guitars. They are absolutely perfect. You probably have PRS guitars. But anyway.
I don't have them. I don't own them, but I used to have one which was like, wow, what's happening here? I couldn't believe what I'm playing. Yeah.
Perfect guitars, they don't make the most interesting music. I don't know. To me.
So you mean like a little bit of something which will take you somewhere else from the comfort zone or something
out of your comfort zone. Sometimes it's good if a guitar fights back, if it's something just gives a little bit of challenge to you. I don't know, but then I have nice guitars and nice amps as well. So it's I'm doing this from a position I'm being like a tourist. I'm a tourist in Eastern Bloc guitars because I have a decent amp and nice guitars. I can do that.
So you can experiment with
yeah, if that's all I had, I would be pissed off. I would, because if I only had East German guitars and access to a Vermona amplifier, then I would probably want a good guitar and a good amp. But I've had that.
You had, right, gotcha.
Yeah.
Coming to your guitar collection, I think that's the topic for another interview we need to make, and a proper video.
Should do a demo.
When I pop to yours, and actually, because you got lots.
Yeah, why not?
So for today, thank you very much for explaining people what you're making, and where is the love for the Eastern Germany coming from.
Where's the love?
That was Tim from Fredric. No, where is the Fredric coming from?
I don't know. Honestly,
You don't know that?
No, it's. I've had the domain. I used to use it for a blog for years and years, and I don't. It's not to do with my name. It's just
because I thought at the beginning. I thought it's your name actually.
No, I had Tim. My name's Tim. Yeah, I had the domain registered, and I just like the name. It sounds kind of European, kind of French. I don't know, a bit of Scandi. Who knows?
All right, thanks a lot, Ben. Cheers.